I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Different words are coming out.
Yeah, that's fine. He was gonna take over and we're gonna listen.
Okay, well, there's my embarrassment for tonight. Maybe you gotta read some of these names too, so we get some more coming. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming and thanks for tuning in on Facebook Live. Future board meetings, November 9th and 23rd and December 14th here. Reminder that we will be on fall break. The second. That's not true.
No, we're not.
Next week. I was thinking fall break, so I was going, so there's another mistake, so let's just keep wrapping up.
Everything comes in threes, so.
We're not meeting for the fourth Tuesday of this month. We're only doing one in October. We do have some revisions to the agenda. That's mostly just under HR. A couple new items have been added, new business items. So I'm going to move on to public recognition. I have a recommendation to approve a $1,500 donation from an anonymous donor for Metro North Elementary, and a recommendation to approve a $1,010 donation from an anonymous donor for Northfield, $250 for cheerleading, $250 for basketball, $250 for tennis, $75 for National Honor Society, $75 for football, and $110 for cross country. So, whoever those anonymous donors are, we do thank them. Sorry.
I move to approve donation.
So,
Motion and second to approve the donations. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
School recognition.
Okay, as you can tell, we do not have any principals here today because we are having parent-teacher conferences tonight until 8 p.m. So they did put, some of them put some recognitions that I'd like to read to you. First of all, from Mr. Martin at Sharp Creek. Congratulations and thank you to Sharp Creek students and families as we exceeded the challenge of collecting 100 cake mixes and 100 icing tubs for Lighthouse Mission. Totals for Sharp Creek, 210 cake mixes and 117 tubs of ice cream. From Mr. McDaniel at Southwood, from Miss Nee, congratulations to Aubrey Carey, flute, and Luke Neal, B-flat clarinet, for making the 2021 Indiana All-Region Honor Band. These two students will represent Southwood Junior Senior High at the Honor Band performance on Sunday, November 14th at Marion High School. Also from Miss Nee, congratulations to Alice Geyer, percussion, Lindsay Silvers, clarinet, and Dakota Wilson, piccolo and flute, for making the 2021 Indiana All-District Honor Band. These three students will represent Southwood Junior Senior High at the Honor Band performance on Sunday, November 21st at Rossville High School. And also, with a win over Tippecanoe Valley Tuesday, October 15th, Our Lady Knights varsity volleyball team wins the TRC for this season. Way to go, ladies. Also, congratulations to our Knights volley football, not too fast. Congratulations to our Knights varsity football team for getting back on the winning track with a decisive win on Friday, October 8th against Woodco. And finally, from Mr. McDaniel, Southwood High School government and econ teacher Shelley Faust was recognized by the college board for serving as a test reader over the summer. We are thankful for Shelley's continued commitment to improving her instruction and preparing our students for the AP exams in economics and government. And I think Mr. Drake also was a reader this summer for AP. That was AP. Yeah, AP history, right? That's right.
Yes, so congratulations and thank you for that. Continuing on, Mr. Boone from South Elementary would like to share, he would like to thank White's High School for stepping up to help us fill in some staffing needs during the week of 9/27 to 10/1. With a number of our staff affected by illness, the White staff provided support by subbing in many of our classrooms. We appreciate Mr. McDivitt for making his offer to us and for arranging the staff to fill the various needs. Of course, they were available because some of the staff, some cottages were on quarantine, so that allowed them to be able to help out with some of that also. And then finally, first run in 1897, the Boston Marathon is one of the most prestigious long-distance races in the world. If you think about it, Boston Marathon runner applies many tenets of our MSD mission, vision, and tagline: discovering and achieving passion and potential, driven to take initiative, unafraid to fail, and of course, dreaming big and work hard. So how does that connect to Southwood Elementary? Congratulations to fifth grade teacher, Mrs. Natalie Unger, on finishing the Boston Marathon yesterday in a time of 3 hours, 26 minutes, and 22 seconds. This time placed her in the top third overall by gender and by age group. Southwood Elementary is super proud of Mrs. Unger for this great achievement.
I would also point out that former Northfield teacher and current Warsaw Community School Superintendent David Hofer competed in the Boston Marathon.
So, all right, and so now at this time, this is a great day because we took a hiatus for a whole year for the staff spotlight. So we are going to spotlight our own Mrs. Ball, and Wendy is going to share a little bit about that. And I will say, in the past, we're going to do something a little bit different. In the past, we actually would give you something like a polo shirt or something like that. But Mrs. Heidi Bartels is going to talk to you about maybe what people would really want, because maybe they would not want a polo, like new car or something like that. What she's thinking, I don't know what her budget is right now, but, and actually that budget, First Farmers Bank and Trust will provide that for us. They are our sponsor, so probably not a new car unless it's just a little match sponsor or something like that. But I do want to congratulate you, and Wendy, thank you for nominating her, and you can go ahead and tell us a little bit about Melissa Ball.
Okay, so Missy stepped in, 2 years, 2 years ago? Okay, so when she stepped in, it was kind of exciting for us as bus drivers because we haven't had a boss who has actually been on a bus. So, so this is what I wrote. So Missy always goes above and beyond what is expected. She wears so many hats in her position, but manages to do them with grace. Her open desk policy, because she has no door, lets her bus drivers, her bus driving force, come to her at any time. She's open, honest, supportive, and goes to bat for her team of drivers. She understands what it takes to love these kids first thing in the morning when they don't want to be out of bed yet and maybe didn't get much sleep, and when they are all over the place in the confined space of a bus. But we still need to control still needs to be maintained. She works hard at seeing the big picture and working with her crew and administration to make things work and help everyone involved see the whole picture. She's a great leader and would probably be humbled rather than excited to receive recognition, which I was right.
You usually are, Wendy.
Wait, this is recorded, right? I can show my husband that part, right?
You can. Well, thank you for that.
So Melissa, do you have anything else you want us?
Well, it's been an interesting road to start out with. We started with COVID last year, so we've learned a lot from each other and worked well together, I feel like. So, and I really appreciate that. My bar is here. I'm here, so I feel like I still have a long way to go, but I thank you very much. So.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to stay or you're welcome to leave, however you do that. So we'll be finished by midnight. So. Hey. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on to public comment for agenda items only. At this point, we'll have another public comment period later.
And while they were looking at that, I do want to say though too, for those people on Facebook land right now too, that anyone can nominate any staff member. And so obviously we have a little bit of an audience here, but also hopefully other people that watch the recording. And you can go to our website and find that and nominate any of the staff members. So thank you for that. Thank you again, Wendy, for doing that for Melissa.
And if anybody wants to get their CDL, please come see me.
Shameless plug. I like it. You want want to get your CDL.
Now's the time, now is the time, yes.
There's no better time than today,
Right, Chris?
right now.
I agree.
We have any public
Okay,
comments?
so we waited long enough, I
All
saw
right.
all for
No, that's, I appreciate that. So we're going to move on to the consent agenda items. The first item is the approval of the minutes from our last board meeting on September 28th.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Financial reports, claims.
If there's none, I'll move to approve claims.
Second.
Motion and second to approve claims. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Payroll.
Payroll's pretty standard. This, can you go up for a second? I just wanted to see the date on this. Okay, this is September 30th. So we just completed the October 15th one. So you'll see at the next board meeting, but you'll probably also see the end of October payroll. With your approval, pending your approval of the teacher contract tonight, we will start those retro pays then at the last pay in October. So that would reflect 4 payments back in retro for the new contracts. So you'll see a much higher number there than in October.
In November.
And then November 15th would be more reflective of what that would possibly look like moving forward. But we'll also start having some coaches' pays and things like that coming in as well between now and then also. So you'll probably see much higher payrolls after the 15th paid. And that's why.
I move the payroll.
Second.
Motion and second to approve payroll. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Financial summary.
Just end of the month report for September. We'll look at cash flow at the next board meeting. Plus we'll have the end of the month for that since we only had one here. But everything still looks to be in the shape it needs to be in at this point in time. Starting to collect some transfer tuition. We sent out those invoices. Melissa, besides handling buses, is also responsible for $640,000 worth of invoices that go out to our area schools. So we started collecting some of that at this point in time. So a lot of that end of the year cash will also be dependent on how much we actually collect between now and the end of the year. But people got those invoices and we'll chase down the ones we need to chase down throughout the year as needed. So I just wanted to let you know that too will have a little impact on cash flow from the revenue side.
Unfortunately, though, she doesn't answer all the questions that they have.
No, she doesn't. I wish she would. I take care of them, so. The last thing I just kind of wanted to show as far as a financial summary was concerned was just the transfers. We show this periodically just to see how we are in comparison with that 15% guideline of transfers from Education to Operations Fund. So since we've ended that third quarter there in September, just kind of giving you where we're at with that. So right now we've transferred approximately 12.38% of our dollars in Education to Operations Fund. There is a little bit of deficit to that as far as what is covered in our Operations Fund due to those transfers. Last year we had a little bit of a surplus, so we're kind of balancing those out a little bit, but we're around that 12% again. And as comparison, if you look to the next slide, We use this as part of our teacher bargaining. Todd, you might have been familiar with a little bit of that conversation. This just kind of shows how we are in comparison with our border schools and what we transfer. Remember, state law is 15%. And so just a comparison with our border schools, you see that we are second highest in revenue in our education fund, but we are the lowest in what we transfer across from education to operations, which I feel like is a good testament to why our education fund is the way it is, and protecting and keeping education dollars for education purposes. So,
Does the state do any regulation on that thing after the 15%?
yeah, there's some waivers and things like that, and then you get put on the naughty list, and then you have to do some things with your board members, and then you have to come up with a
The board
plan.
has to come up with one.
Yeah, donations from our board members.
We'll be having a
Hey,
bake
Judge.
sale.
We are paid.
Right, but we have to like do some things on our website, and we have to do some things at board meetings, just to show that we're trying to rectify that issue.
And when you say we, you're assuming that if we were one of those.
If we were one of
But we
those.
don't have to.
Right.
Just clarify that, for
Right.
people who may have caught that incorrectly.
So do you look at that as a financial strength indicator then, or what?
I do. I feel like that shows the strength of not only our education fund, but our operation fund, because a lot of people that are transferring more money is because a lot of times they're impacted by things like tax caps. So they're trying to generate revenue for monies that was not recouped because of the tax caps. And so transferring dollars from one fund to another is a way that you could help offset the tax caps issue that you might run into. And so, like I was showing you there, we still have if we wanted to be 100% of everything the reason that they set up these transfers was because they moved things that you paid for out of the old general fund into the operations fund. So if we wanted to be 100% to cover that, I think we'd be like around 13.5%, and it showed like a $120,000 deficit in that funding. Well, that would mean that our operations fund is not getting enough revenue in it to support itself, but it is supporting itself with the things that we're doing.
I was just trying to think real quickly, Chris, about how the management of the capital money would affect that. So our bonding, our GOs help that a little bit. So.
They have helped that. The things that we've done in the past to do some of those small term bonds, not only help us do the projects that we need to get done, but they can also help protect some of our funds in other areas that are needed when it comes to things like even like staffing and so forth. So we haven't taken money out of the education to help fund our operation fund. It's basically just there. So there's nothing to prove with that. I just kind of wanted to share that information. Yeah.
It's good to know that stuff.
So I think the paper.
All right, if there are no other questions, we'll move on to personnel. Under resignation, we have Aaron Creech, custodian at Northville High School, and Cheyenne Ruff, paraprofessional at Middle North Elementary. For employment, we have Hannah Dibbett, paraprofessional at Nick Dibbett, paraprofessional at Southwood Elementary, and Bailey Roberts, technology assistant at Southwood Elementary. Also have our Northfield winter coaches lined up. Brandon Baker, head girls basketball, Rex Reimer, head boys basketball, Matt Burkhart, assistant boys basketball, Matt Brown, assistant boys basketball, Sean Klein, volunteer boys basketball, Troy Bear, and Shane Viger, boys basketball volunteers. Ed Shadowfield under head wrestling, assistant wrestling, Scotty Pennington. Also, Eric Kirtland, assistant wrestling, Greg Gale, assistant wrestling and junior high coach. Joseph Mitchell, assistant wrestling, and Neil Beaver, volunteer wrestling, and Isaiah Vanderpool, volunteer wrestling. Micah Higgins, volunteer assistant wrestling, and Allie Rosemeyer, our head cheer, Deb Schenkel, assistant cheer, Haley Zolman, head junior high cheer, Sydney Chamberlain, assistant girls basketball, Hillary Ellsroth, assistant girls basketball, Makila Hunter, girls swimming, Kevin Lemming, junior high boys basketball, Kevin Pratt, junior high boys basketball, and Scott Hopper, fifth and sixth grade boys basketball.
That'll be volunteer.
That is well, it doesn't say volunteer, but it has to be.
Yep.
Because we don't want them to step down from this current.
I just noticed that.
You should know that.
I'll move to approve HR.
Second. Motion and second to approve HR. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Heartland Career Center report. You have something for us, Matt?
No, I do not.
Okay. Superintendent's report, Mr. Kefever.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell you a few of the things that have been going on, but parent-teacher conference is obviously going on right now until about 8 p.m. And then I want to tell you about an experience I had a week ago Saturday. We had the Southwood class of 1970 that wanted to do a tour, and it was interesting that some of those people had never been back since graduation, so it was really neat to give them the tour. But really the thing that really came out and stood out to me was the people wanted to know, they wanted to go to see the classroom of some of their favorite teachers. So it wasn't necessarily the classroom, but it was the favorite teachers that they wanted to go see and how it changed. And so obviously from 1970 to 2021, the reason why it's the 40 or 51st is because of COVID. They've been talking about this for a long time. But it's just really fun though to see them. And I will tell you, probably to give a tour, it was very difficult because they were very chatty. They had seen each other for probably 51 years. Some of the guys that were in the front with me, they said, you just need to keep going because they're just going to keep going. And not that I'm minded because I really enjoyed it too, because a lot of them had my dad as a band director, but we were there 2 hours, and so it was fun. It's not that big of a school to take a tour, but we were there 2 hours, so it was a lot of fun. Also want to mention Dr. Kuhn gave up his Rotarian presidency. I gave up my Quanian presidency, but I do want to say though, appreciate the board for allowing us to do those kinds of things. A really kind of a difficult time though still with COVID, and we made some changes to both of our groups. I did mention Quanis first, I think. It's not because we're better, I guess. So, had the opportunity to go yesterday and today to the ISBA, IPSS conference, so I appreciate that. Also, just doing the superintendent advisory teams, Northwood and Southwood. It's always fun to talk to the kids and hear what they have to say. White's graduation, we had another one last week, about 3 more graduates. The Lemming track, obviously Scott was a big part of that. Really neat, a big turnout too, and just really neat too. And speaking about chatty and talking a lot, yeah, interesting. I won't say any more, so we're just laughing about that. And I think most of the sports things were, maybe not everything, but the cross country girls moving on to regional. And also there's some Northfield and Southwood boys individuals that are moving on to regional from cross country. The high school TRC was mentioned as far as Southwood winning the TRC, but also the Southwood 7th grade girl volleyball team won the RRC Friday or Saturday. So just a lot of good things going on. Fun being in the schools.
Curriculum.
Yeah, I'll just let the board know that we are looking at getting textbooks again, and we're trying to get some digital and some print textbooks, not quite the same ones we used to have in the past, but we're trying to promote more literacy and reading, and we find that students and teachers enjoy reading from a book as well as from the screen, so we're trying to work on that. And so we are currently piloting 3 different providers: McGraw-Hill, who's been around for forever, Glencoe McGraw-Hill, Discovery Ed, which is, we currently use them for some science and a couple of grades, in Pearson, which is now SATS. And so teachers at all buildings, grades 4 through 12, we have several teachers piloting those. So we will follow the traditional process. We'll go through our works, make a recommendation to the board, and then you guys will see that recommendation in January. And then we will leave it here for public review for, I think it's 30 days. I'll have to check my list, but I'm pretty sure it's 30 days. And once it's been through that, we'll ask for your approval and then we'll make the purchase. And so we are in the current process of piloting those. So teachers are sending out website stuff and doing those things. All of those providers have had a hard time getting textbooks in hand because of supply chain issues. And so we have unfortunately not been able to see the textbooks, but we've been able to see the digital portion of the textbooks. So, but I know in today's age, there's lots of conversations about curriculum and where that's going to go. And so just to be transparent, it'll all be previewed January for your preview, and we will open up for parents who want to come see that and go through that as well. So expect that in January.
Is there a parallel between the software and the hard?
Yes.
Like in a cost kind of thing too?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because, I mean, early on, when we went down the road of all this, we were gonna save so much on textbooks. Now we're buying back into print.
Yeah, we have, it'll be a little bit of a cost, an additional cost to that. And it's kind
I'm
of.
for it, don't get me
Oh, okay.
wrong, I like the whole print myself, rather than a reader, yes.
Yeah. And I feel like we have both. We have some kids and some teachers that really do well with the technology, and then we have some that don't, and that need that paper copy. And so just preliminary conversations and costs are to use, we've set aside some ESSER dollars to kind of get us through this round, and then that'll get us through the 6 years, and then we'll start talking about how that works with TVR and devices and whatever. But for now, it was enough of a concern of our staff that they wanted to have that we felt like it was worthwhile to develop some of those funds. And so
Certain subjects over others.
primarily, for sure, right now we're looking at science and social studies. And this is a traditional math adoption year, so we'll also look at math. But we've already bought math textbooks 6 years ago. They were the ones that we kind of brought back on early. But science and social studies, we didn't. And there's just a lot of factors that go into that. Maybe I could put a presentation or something together when we get closer to that. Yeah.
Probably the presentation for your parents.
Yeah.
Being able to find the
Not
answer.
being able to help them out. Yeah.
An index, huh?
Yes.
But we're looking at classroom sets of books rather than every student to have every book, and so then there wouldn't necessarily be every kid taking home, but that those that really need them. I am dollars certainly come to that.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to new business. We have an item in here, it's a recommendation to salvage some items for an auction to be held on October 23rd.
Yeah, so every couple of years, Steve Holly would set up an auction just to kind of clear things out that we weren't using anymore. We probably have not had an auction since the time La Fountain was closed. And so it's been a while, and Steve wants to kind of get rid of some things that we're not using, which I don't blame him. And so these are the items that we would like to put up for auction. Steve is planning to have an auction on Saturday, October 23rd at 8 a.m. at Southwood High School. If anybody wants to go out and buy something.
You lost me at 8 a.m.
And so he gave me that list, and we just need to deem those as salvage, and we will auction them off on that Saturday. And anything that we don't have, we'll get rid of in some way, shape, or form.
There's some pretty neat things too. That 1991 Case International 395 utility tractor with 7-foot grader blade. It's an awesome little tractor.
Catch our eye now.
Yeah, pictures.
So,
Now you know you're gonna get people there to bid against.
I don't want it, I'm just saying, it's a pretty neat tractor.
So you publicize this somehow, Chris?
Yeah.
Who does the auction?
I put down the note, I don't know the individual, Larry Miller from North Manchester.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you even know him, but that's who Steve is.
Now, the student desk, though, that's gonna be popular. People are gonna want those, so get there,
Yeah.
get there early.
Use those for your loans.
I'll motion to approve the list for, auction on the 23rd.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the salvage items for the auction on the 23rd. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next, we have the recommendation to approve the resolution to transfer funds to the rainy day.
So this is something that we've been doing for a while now, and primarily a lot of that was due to the fact that we needed to repay ourselves back to the self-insurance fund. That is no longer an issue. I've been thinking lately of, some goals and some things that I've had in mind, and I know one of the things that we've talked about before in the past is one of our strategic plans is just finding revenue sources. And one thing that I've been interested in, I need to learn a lot more about, is just investments and how that works. Talking with some other business officials in school business, they do some of those types of things. And when we talked about some things with rainy day fund, we're lucky to have a rainy day fund. But we also know we don't always just want money just sitting there necessarily. We want it to be in good use, and if it can make money for us too, that may be a good option as well. But one of the goals that we had, right now, our original goal was to get our rainy day fund up to $1 million, which was good. And looking long term, a lot of places that I've talked to kind of set the standard of 10% of your operating budget, which our operating budget is usually about $26 million when we look at our main funds, which would put us about $2.5 million or so as far as a rainy day budget would be concerned. This is not a hard, fast goal by any means, not something that I anticipate at getting at next year or next 2 or 3 years, but something I think that if we have monies that may not be needed or used for a specific thing at a period of time at the end of the year, if there's extra, then placing it into our rainy day fund from time to time. And so that could be 50,000, that could be nothing, that could be 300,000. We have a little bit extra just because of the whole plan ahead of time with paying ourselves back to the self-insurance fund. We were able to do that a little bit sooner than we had anticipated. And so there is some, I don't want to say leftover money, but there is some potential of putting some extra money aside into the rainy day fund out of our operation fund without it doing too much to our operation budget whatsoever. And I've kind of previewed that. If you paid attention to the cash flow worksheet, I've kind of previewed that towards the end of the year of what that would look like. And like I said, that could vary from year to year. It may be nothing from year to year as well. But just thinking long term and thinking of some of those things that we could do to make our money work for ourselves at some point would be to look at increasing our rainy day fund a little bit. And so that's a goal we can get into later. But just to, since we've kind of got this already set up that way, if it's something that you guys think is reasonable, we can do it now. We don't have to do it, but just kind of looking ahead long term. This was already budgeted out for 21 anyway, and so just kind of following that footprint.
Does state regulation allow you to pull that money back out of rainy and put it back in the capital?
So our rainy day fund is regulated by whatever our resolution, and we can modify our resolution as needed, but it's a board decision on what that is used for, and how that's used.
I remember when we wrote this restrictions on that.
Right, and so it is allowed, the way we have it written now, it is allowed for capital expenses. We've used it for primarily things like stipends, retirement bridges. We've used it for some consulting fees. Before we set up our marketing program, we were using money out of there to do some of our marketing things, which we don't do now. We do that out of the operations fund, but, so those are some of the things. We even used it once when I first started, to help offset some issues we were having with food service. And so this can be used towards any fund if the need is there, for the purposes that you guys approve of, so.
If things stay positive and then we are able to build that fund up, are you allowed to invest that outside then if interest rates, as they will, climb?
Yeah, and I would rather, if we went to looking at doing some of more of those types of things, I would rather use the monies in that fund than pulling monies out of our education or operations to do something like that. Because this, I don't want to say this, the money's just sitting there, right? It's used for rainy day purposes or whatever you feel deemed necessary. So it's not bargainable money. So there are some restrictions to money being in that fund. There is one new law that we talked, I think, a little bit in our negotiations, that if your rainy day fund gets over 25% of your operating budget, then it becomes bargainable. Whatever percent of that is over. So if it was 30%, then 5% of that could be bargainable to the association. But I don't, like I said, I have no dreams or aspirations of making it huge, right? It's just, kind of there for.
It's just
That's
nice to
right.
not see it go against the self-insurance fund.
Mhm.
It's still there.
Right.
I'm in favor, and I'll support a motion if everybody's sense of decimals in the right spot.
Yeah, sorry, that first one I gave you.
3 million.
Had 3 million on it. I was like, that's not right.
So moved then.
Motion and second to approve the resolution to transfer money to the rainy day fund. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Recommendation to approve the 2021 through 2023 teacher contract.
So as you remember, just to go back into history, we had to have a hearing prior to even discussing a teacher contract, and that's prior to September 15th, which we did that back in July or August. And then last board meeting, we actually did a tentative agreement and looked at that to have a hearing also. The teachers did ratify that, so we get to the final step of tonight to be able to ask you to approve the 2021 to 2023 teacher contract. If you have any questions, obviously you've seen all that before, it's been on the website, but specifically, if you have any questions, you can ask for a motion to approve that contract.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second to approve the 2021 through 2023 teacher contract. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Recommendation to approve the overnight camping trip for Southwood Elementary, 4th grade, to Camp Tecumseh in Brookston on November 4th through 5th.
So.
Motion and second to approve the overnight camping trip for Southwood Elementary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Recommendation to approve the extended field trip for Northfield's ACP Government, ACP History, and seniors interested in Indiana University, Bloomington, to Indiana University, Bloomington, Indiana, November 1st.
Moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the recommendation for the extended field trip to IU. All in favor, say aye.
Three.
There it was, that was the third one.
There we go.
So we have no unfinished business, and board policy, we have none. Public comment for any items. And if you guys have anything that you want to say, you're more than welcome.
It's a slow night on Facebook.
Slow that
It is a slow
They
night.
must all be a parent-teacher conference.
Okay, any items from board members?
Just a quickie, we don't really have to discuss it, but I'm just curious. We send in dues every year to the Indiana State School Board Association, which we're part of. Does some of that money funnel into the national organization that the Attorney General is kind of?
I will have to find out. I do know, like, for my organizations, it's separate, but I'm not for sure on the state one, so.
I would like
I'll
to
find out.
see it separate. I know Terry came out against it a little bit in some of his emails from the state level, or in non-support of it. We don't need them checking out parents at board meetings.
I'll check.
That's all.
Any other items from board members?